Good evening, everyone. Donald Trump looking toward the general election and taking on Hillary Clinton, claiming her agenda is what's getting her votes, but it looks like she's getting a boost from millennials voters also. And Amazon, after the market closed, having an amazing session. Take a look at this, crushing it. They killed the earnings estimates and went up much higher. Can they help the market? Because we had a pretty bad session. Also talking about a pretty bad day. Former Speaker of the House, John Boehner, weighing in on Ted Cruz, his, quote, hellish comparison with everyone else. And, of course, Ted Cruz got defensive. You got to listen to it all right now.
Lucifer in the flesh. I have as many Democrat friends as I have Republican friends. I get along with everybody. But I have never worked with a more miserable son of
I've never worked with John Boehner. Truth of the matter is I don't know the man. I've met John Boehner 2 or 3 times in my life. If I have said 50 words in my life to John Boehner, I'd be surprised, and every one of them has consisted of pleasantries. Good to see you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, that was, of course, John Boehner and Ted Cruz, both from earlier today. Not really doing anything to help voters, particularly when it comes to respect for the GOP or the Republican Party. According to a new poll from Pew Research, the nation's unfavorable rating for the Republican Party now at its highest point since 1992. We're talking 62% of the nation now sees the GOP unfavorably. Only 50% feel the same way about the Democratic Party. And I got to tell you something. These trends probably not enough to stop the vitriolic nature that we've seen this political season. The latest chapter, of course, coming today from former Speaker John Boehner. Joining me now to discuss Congressman Marsha Blackburn, Mark Serrano, Louise Minch, and Senator. I was going to make you a senator. Steve Rogers. Representative Blackburn, you have been the voice of reason throughout all of this. You have dealt with the notion that it's the outsider's year, but it's rubbed a whole lot of people the wrong way, particularly within your party. It's falling apart before our eyes. You still insist that everything's okay.
I think things are just fine, and I think Ted Cruz today should have said, see, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I've been dealing with. He should have owned it. And I got to tell you something. I think 62% of the American people don't see the Republican Party as a negative. Look at the millions that have come in. I think they see the establishment with a negative, and I think that's where it's coming from. They want something different. They want us back to our roots and that constitutional underpinning of a strong national defense, strong on individual liberty, strong on making certain we preserve the Constitution.
You know, Luis, I think to a degree Ted Cruz tried to own it. He lumped this in, of course, with Harry Reid, Boehner, some of the McConnell, said they're all in the same boat. They all despised him because he went down to Washington, D.C. to shake things up, and he lumped them all in with Donald Trump.
Yeah, and I think maybe that is a tactic. Perhaps that's the best card that he's got to play right now. Everybody is going to make fun of John Boehner. I mean, the hashtag that is trending is Crucifer. Lucifer meets Ted Cruz. But let's face it, who are Ted Cruz's most important electors right now? They are those delegates. And those GOP grassroots, those delegates that are going to be at the convention, they do not like John Boehner. Incredibly unpopular with the Republican grassroots. So how much that's really going to hurt Ted Cruz really remains to be seen.
I would think it would help him, but, you know, Mark, I got to tell you something. When this began, a lot of people that hated the Planned Parenthood, now they like it. A lot of people hated the North Carolina bathroom law, now they like it. I mean, some of these folks out there can be swayed pretty easy from their core convictions. Do you think a lot of people now are going to like John Boehner?
No way. Charles, look, if anybody's Lucifer, okay, it's the guys who have sold the American people down the river like John Boehner. He's the Lucifer. And the warning to Ted Cruz is, be careful who you dance with, because if you dance with the devil, you get burned. He has been toying with the establishment to try to outsmart and outmaneuver Donald Trump. This is the backlash. This is the burn against Ted Cruz. It was a mistake to begin with.
Although you're a Trump supporter, John Boehner says that late in the night, as Donald Trump is tweeting, he also texts him as well. I mean, that doesn't help Donald Trump, does it?
I got to tell you, I don't believe that at all. I don't believe John Boehner and Donald Trump are texting each other. There's no way. Look, John Boehner is the poster boy of the establishment. He's the reason why we're in the mess that the voters are reacting to. And I'm telling you, it's to the advantage of Trump. It's the advantage of Cruz. Cruz should distance himself from this guy. It's ridiculous. It's horrible.
Charles, it helps no one. Look, John Boehner obviously has a delayed reaction to letting down the American people. He did. He let down the American people. But there comes a time when all the name calling has to stop. We have to think about what our children are looking at.
Are you concerned about that 62% number?
Not at all. Regarding Trump?
No, regarding the Republicans in general, the unfavorable view of the Republican Party.
Oh, yeah. That's the Republican establishment. I'm not concerned about that because the Republican establishment is going down. And the people in this country, in this case, Republicans, are rising up. We're seeing it because of Donald Trump. They're going to take that party completely over, reshape it, and make it respectable once again.
Oh, please, come on. We've just heard about the bromance between Boehner and Trump, texting each other late at night like little lovebirds. Come on, these are two guys that are deep in the establishment. Why wouldn't he text Boehner? After all, he was deep in with Hillary Clinton, donating to her. The guy is baked into the establishment. Ted Cruz has stood firm against that. And that's why those delegates know that they're not going to be easily fooled. They're not going to like tales of Donald
You've got two Trump men sitting right here. You know that, right?
You know, both. We see this woman card I got right here. I'll take you both.
This is the problem.
Okay, hold on one second, guys. Let's bring in Representative Blackburn. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think what we've got is Trump and Cruz are the two outsiders. It is going to be either one of them. Trump has had a very good week. Cruz has had a less good week. I think Cruz should have owned this from Boehner and said, this is indicative of what I'm talking about, used it to build himself forward. But I agree, the 62% number, this is the message to the establishment.
Yes.
Move over. This is a restructuring like we had in 1980. It is going to be a new, more focused Republican Party.
Here's the problem, though, guys. You know, people that I heard were rhinos yesterday aren't rhinos, and people that stood for the conservative movement for 30, 40 years, all of a sudden being called rhinos. I don't even know anymore who's supposedly the establishment and who supposedly are rhinos.
You know, you're
Look,
right.
this is primary politics, Charles. Yeah. It gets muddy, okay?
Yes,
and it's hard to figure out, you know, where the lines are drawn, particularly because it's primary politics. The reality
is like MMA before they made it legal, though.
Look, the reality is on June 7th, okay, Trump's either going to be the nominee or he's going to come up just short. And that period after June 7th is when a nominee will be chosen before Cleveland.
And your answer?
And we will unite as a party.
But there's a confluence right now of ideologies and the name calling. Again, I'm hearing people called rhinos who I know for a fact are conservatives who were carrying a conservative banner when it was the least popular thing in America to do.
But Charles, as Mark said, you will find out in June and at the convention, you'll get the answer to your question. All this name calling is going to stop. There's going to be a new Republican Party is going to rise up of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Yeah, these are the people. Talk about insults. Donald Trump is insulting all those Cleveland delegates all the time, calling them the elite, when in fact they're the hard-working grassroots. They are going to rise up against those insulting Cleveland and deliver a conservative nominee.
Ultimately, Hillary Clinton.
That's not going to be Donald Trump.
Those delegates are beholding to, not all of them, but many of them are beholding to party bosses. Remember that.
You know, Representative Blackburn, in the last block, we're going to do a comparison of the Ronald Reagan in 1980 and Donald Trump this year, because I think there are a lot of parallels, but people would also be surprised at where they differed. But the point is that you're saying this is an evolutionary thing. It happens in everything, including politics and with political parties, and this is something we deal with. But what about the carnage and the aftermath? Because these things don't happen without a lot of people's being broken, and a lot of spirits being broken, and a lot of bad blood in the aftermath.
But I have to tell you, it heals. From 99 to 02, I led a fight against the state income tax in Tennessee. It was brought forward by a Republican administration. And I have to tell you, we were kind of on the front end of the Tea Party and the upheaval and all of that. We defeated the state income tax. And I have seen people come together and they come back and they say, okay, this is going to be what our basis is. We're going to stand against this. And they have stood together, and it has reshaped our state. It has reshaped our party, both for the better. And we have super majorities in our House and our Senate. We've kind of led the way on this transition and this refocus to put our emphasis on a smaller central government, national security, providing for common defense. You know, those fundamental
there's some core issues, though, like trade that are being completely turned upside down that used to be a foundation of the Republican Party. I'll ask
it will work its way out.
Okay, let me just ask you two guys real quick then, okay? In these last 6 states in the Northeast, Republican voter turnout was less than 10%. In Wisconsin, it was 26%. New Hampshire, it was 28%. What I'm saying is that if you read this the right way, it shows you where the never Trump folks don't show up to vote, the number of participation goes down a lot. It might even offset the independents and Democrats coming in. Does that have to be healed for the Republicans to win in November?
I think it will be. Look, I think what's going to come from this is a lot of the core conservative values of the Republican Party will come through. The fight is going to lead
How?
to
Because
that.
it looks like foreign policy is being changed. It looks like trade is being traded. It looks like
it all
social issues
boils
are being
down to-
traded.
Trump's going to need them.
Yes.
He's going to need them. They will not sit on the side. Ultimately, Hillary Clinton is the opponent here.
But
the
Charles-
party will unite with conservative principles. I believe it. I believe Trump will end up in that right
And
place.
it boils down to one word: leadership. And Donald Trump is going to bring that leadership to the table.
Luis, it is a good point. This is a great time for whoever emerges to show that kind of leadership.
That's right.
It's not impossible.
Well, it is impossible based on what we've seen from Donald Trump recently, talking about people's women card. I mean, can the guy even grow up?
Oh, come on.
This is
Those are
like
the
a
talking
5-year-old
points.
running for president, a 5-year-old.
All right, guys.
Louise.
Tell you what, let's leave it there because in the next segment, we'll talk about the women's card, Hillary, and how Donald Trump matches up with her. I also want to remind the audience not to miss